Hello and welcome to the 19th episode of the Meet the Entrepreneur podcast. This is ARTEEN ZAHIRI and I'm the co-host of this feature along with RUMEER KESHWANI. Today we're speaking with Issac Elnekave, founder and CEO of 1Question. 1Question is a mobile app that has children answer curriculum-aligned educational questions in order to earn screen time on their devices. Parents have full control by using the 1Question parent app to make changes to the settings, as well as track their child's progress in real time. Issac, well, to kick things off, it would be great if you could explain to our audience what 1Question is.
Yeah, sure. 1Question looks to solve the problem. That's actually the number one problem the parents face today, which is their kids' unproductive screen time. If you're a parent or if you've seen parents and kids, you'll notice that kids are constantly on their devices. I know I've got 3 daughters, so it really is sort of a double-edged sword. As a parent, you want your kids to be doing something productive on their device, and especially with young kids, when you take the device away from them, then you become the primary entertainer, and so you're like, oh man. I got to take that device away, but then I'm going to be the primary entertainer. So, it's a challenge. So what 1Question does is we look to make your kids' screen time productive. And the way we do that is by having kids earn screen time through engaging with curriculum-aligned content. So the more your child earns, the more screen time they earn. It's almost, you can think of it like a currency. So your child earns screen time, which they can then deploy across any number of apps or app categories that you want them to. And when they're done, when they've run out of screen time, then they got to go back into 1Question, engage with more educational content, and earn more screen time. So we're making that screen time productive.
That's awesome. And Issac, talk to us about the decision. Initially, you launched this within the Australian market. Recently expanding to the States. What was the kind of reasoning behind that geographic focus?
Well, the beauty of being an app-based business is that, we're really born global. So you want to be able to absolutely maximize that, especially when you're working with a high velocity product-led go-to-market strategy. You want to be able to try and capture as much of your addressable market as possible, as quickly as possible. And so, but there's also a double-edged sword, because you need to have a proving ground first before you can actually push go. So, with the business actually being founded in Australia, it made sense, to get it out there, get feedback, make sure that we iterate, and then when we're ready, then look to expand. So we launched, we launched here in the US about a week and a half ago. We're looking to launch in the UK at the end of April, and then Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and probably about 10 additional English-speaking countries in May.
Fantastic, yeah, and congratulations on the recent launch in the United States. And to take it a step back, when looking at your background, I see this is a venture, pretty recent that you launched, but, clearly have a lot of extensive experience working in different fields before. Would you mind maybe telling us a bit about your background, your upbringing, what part of your experiences led you to start 1Question?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in California, Los Angeles, California. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I think I was employed for a period of about 2 months, and that was in a transitionary phase when I had sold one of my businesses, and I was sort of bedding it down within the acquirer businesses. My background's been actually quite varied. I'm very much a generalist. Actually, I wouldn't say I'm a generalist. My superpower really is finding those people that are a hell of a lot smarter than I am, and coercing them, cajoling them, seducing them, whatever it needs to get, to get them onto the team. And so I love building businesses. I love building teams. That's probably what I really enjoy most. In Australia, I've had quite a few different ventures. I built Australia's largest bagel bakery and retail chain. And we sold it to a bakery conglomerate in Australia. I was built Australia's largest online skincare retailer, and we sold that to drugstore.com here in the U.S. I've been involved in a very deep tech venture, building privacy-preserving technology, which is something that I'm very passionate about. And that is a very that journey, because it's the only real deep tech venture I've ever been involved in. And you can liken deep tech to pharmaceutical companies creating, new drugs, although maybe not so much now, because coronavirus has shrunken down the whole concept of lab trials from 10 years to 10 months. But sorry, just get rid of that. So Tide is a privacy preserving technology business, and that's been a lot of fun. 1Question is really the polar opposite. It is absolutely super simple concept, and the origin story for 1Question is something that I think a lot of parents would identify with. So I've got 3 daughters, 13, 14, and 24 at the time of founding 1Question, which was in September 2020. So we were in lockdown in Australia in the middle of September 2020, and back then, Australian lockdown laws were quite severe. So we were only allowed one member of the family out of the house for about an hour a day. And so what that meant was that my daughters, who are usually hibernating in the rooms, actually came out because there was nowhere else to be. And so we were all in the living room one day, and reality was that they could have been in different planets. They were just on their iPhones and glued to it. And my wife turned to me and she said, I want Alyssa, who at the age of 13 still did not know her times tables. So if you ask her what 6 times 7, you'll see her go 7, 14, 15, 16, 17. But like I said, all 3 of them Jedi status and using their phones, just glued to their device, to their faces. So Anne said to me, hey, I want Alyssa to answer a times table question before she can get it onto TikTok. And I remember looking at her and going, that is absolutely brilliant. Download the app, I'm in. And Anne came to me about an hour later and she said, there is no app. And I did sort of, I guess, middle-aged male techie thing and went, move over, babe, I'll find it for you. I spent 2 hours and didn't find it. So we built it. That was the origin story for 1Question.
That's a great story. And honestly, even for people like Rumir and I's age, we're in our 20s, very, very much resonate with that. I'm sure if before I could hop on like Twitter or Reddit, I had to answer a math question, I'd be much more productive with my day.
1Question for adults is coming up next, and
perfect.
1Question for enterprise as well.
Yeah, you're thinking in the right places for sure. Isaac, when you were talking about all these different kind of ventures you've had, it's really interesting to see you be successful in many different industries, like you said. I'm curious, where did that initial thirst, passion for entrepreneurship come from? Somebody who's a serial entrepreneur like yourself, at a young age, was your family involved in a business, or where did that initially come from?
Well, my family immigrated to the U.S. And I think like the child of immigrant parents, and that's not to the exclusion of naturally born and raised families, but in my family, education was like really important for my parents. They put our education, the kids' education. I've got a brother and a sister. They put that well ahead of creature comforts or even their own comfort. To the point where we lived in an area that had a catchment area for an awesome school. It's like a great school. My parents couldn't afford to send us to private school. And so they scraped together every penny so that we can rent a place in the catchment area of a good public school. But what that meant was that there wasn't any money at home. My job then was delivering newspapers. And whatever money I made went into a little box at home. It was like that was my sort of contribution back into the family. And I think that was the early stages of me understanding that, hey, if I get out there and I work, I can earn. And if I can earn, I can help my family. And that's where entrepreneurship was instilled in me, because I knew that, at first I started off delivering newspapers, and then I had a little lemonade stand. But my friends could see me make money from the lemonade stand. They wanted to open up their own. So I thought, well, this is great. I'll make lemonade and sell it to you, and you can sell it to, so we started a little franchise business. Lemonade. My sister helping me, my mom helping me, made these jugs of lemonade, and we had like 5 or 6 lemonade stands for friends around the area. And I realized, well, I can make more money doing this than actually working for someone else.
I think that's like super inspiring. I definitely resonate with that a lot. I think Arteen and I are both first generation Americans. Education definitely at the forefront. I remember I started a lemonade stand when I was a kid with like all my friends. We took all our money and we went to Pizza Hut at the end of the summer and went to the buffet. It was just so funny. And selling candy in school, stuff like that. I mean, these are the experiences, right, that really teach you at a young age, like not only just like what you're capable of, right, and like what other opportunities exist. I feel a lot of people who may not lean into that, they don't that switch is never turned on in their brain, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think that's that's a really empowering story. So as just to circle back to like one question, now that we know how, where your inspiration comes from, what is your exact go-to-market plan with targeting each of these geographies that you're going in? Is there like a specific type of parent that you guys are going for? I know that all parents who have kids definitely have their kids be using technology. I mean, it's like it's just universal at this point, but I'd love to hear your thoughts more on that.
Yeah, I've always believed that the go-to-market strategy is probably one of the most, if not the most, important parts of any business, because the product we can really iterate on as long as we've got sort of problem solution fit even before we get to product market fit. But the reality is that to get to product market fit, you need to have a go-to-market strategy, and so many awesome businesses just die there. So I'll put my hand up. I'm still trying to figure out the go-to-market strategy for 1Question. The way that we're approaching it at the moment is very much shotgun style, and we're doing that off the back of some pretty decent analytics from our beta version. And that's the other thing I'm also very passionate about is, get that alpha product out there, get that beta product out there, get that feedback. Don't rush out. Don't worry about all the ugliness. And the first version of 1Question literally just had the 1 through 13 times tables in the back and a randomizer function in front. That was it. It was just there for Alyssa to nail her times tables, right? It was just ugly as hell. But we had 50 families and friends using it within a week and a half of getting out there. And 2 weeks later, Alyssa nailed the times tables. And that was the aha moment for me. So it was like, wow, okay, repetition. She was answering 27 questions a day, every day. And if her and I had the mental fortitude to sit down together and go through 27 times table questions a day, she would have gotten it as well. But the reason why that impacted the current go-to-market strategy is because we realized that it's an issue that impacts so many parents, and so we just adopted the sort of lowest hanging fruit approach and went, okay, well let's target parents with kids of our target age range, sort of sweet spot being 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old. Right. And let's just put an ad in front of them saying, hey, are your kids spending too much time online?
I think that's the easy question, right? Like everyone can say yes.
Yeah, I mean, and like everything else in negotiations, the most important thing is to first get your counterpart to nod their head. Like, yeah, great. So are your kids spending too much time on it? Yes. Okay, great. Awesome. We're in. But these days, and so we use that primarily in performance marketing. And performance marketing is it's a beautiful thing when you nail it, because you've built a sausage making factory, right? Every single time it's going to come out the same. The only question is how deep is it? And it is very deep. For in our market, is very deep. 40 odd million kids just in the U.S. So that has been our initial go-to-market strategy. But that's not a clever go-to-market strategy. That's just off the shelf, and it's not going to be one that gives us or doesn't allow us to extend our first mover advantage. So a lot of my time these days is spent on trying to figure out what is that clever go-to-market strategy. And for me, it's about finding a one-to-one-to-many approach or a teach-to-teacher approach. Because if I can empower someone else to spread the gospel about one question, then I can reach a lot more people a lot faster. So I don't have an answer for you, except to say that, yes, we're working through performance marketing. Yes, we're getting some good results there. It's, a fairly simple automated solution. Yes, we do PR because that is important. This is, like I said, because we're a product-led business, it's about awareness first, and from there, a trial, and then into a subscription. But we're also working through one-to-one-to-many relationships, like working with tutoring companies, where we can allow tutors to create custom questions for their students, which makes a lot of sense because the student is now revising the content that the tutors taught them in between tutoring visits. And
basically the new type of homework. I mean, that's what you guys are inventing. You guys are
exactly right.
Reinventing how people should think about homework, which I think is a fascinating concept.
And I think that actually is the area that we're heading to.
Yeah.
Because if I can gamify screen time based on your kids' homework, we are now aligned with the school and the parents, and that is the ultimate one-to-one-to-many go-to-market strategy. So that's where I'm spending a lot of my time these days, trying to figure out how can we gamify screen time based on homework.
I think your humbleness regarding your go-to-market and claiming that it's a non-go-to-market plan is a little funny, but you guys, you definitely have a plan. I think always wanting to be better, right, and come up with a more creative plan, something that is a little bit more sticky, stuff like that. I think that that's a necessary mindset to maintain. But I think as you were talking about it more, I can easily see this, I think this is a very community-based thing, right? Like you said, you brought it, when you invented it, right? You brought it to your community. You said you saw 50 parents using it, right? As soon as you bring it to a group of parents or any sort of community, whether it's ethnic, racial, or religious, they're going to want everyone, all their kids to do better, be better, all this good stuff. So I think there's definitely a tinderbox there waiting for you to light it up.
Yeah.
I think that's great. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that the idea of kids earning screen time and then spending the screen time is really cool. I saw that Tide is a blockchain protocol. So I actually work in the crypto industry, full-time. That's my day job. So when you said that, I was thinking, you were oh, they can deploy their time and stuff that is kind of lingo that makes me think about that. What is there any inspiration from your work there that kind of led you to how you're approaching this screen time earning issue?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think one thing that when we look at the blockchain world, I've spent 5 years there. I think the most important thing that I've been able to take away from the decentralized approach is that it only works when all the actors' incentives are aligned. So, if you cannot align the incentive for every single individual actor, it's going to fail. Because in a decentralized world, everyone is doing this because they want to. So if you don't want to do it because you're not incentivized properly, you're not going to do it. And so, when we looked at 1Question, whilst 1Question today is not we're not a crypto-based business, we spent a lot of time on the gamification side of things. and ensuring that we have alignment between all of the various stakeholders. We learned a lot of really, really interesting things doing that. So, you know, when we first started 1Question, I think I shared with you guys, it just had the 1 to 13 times tables in the back. And then I went, okay, well, let's build out math because we're already here. So, you know, we built out 40,000 curriculum aligned math questions for Australia, the UK, and the US curriculum, all three, because I figured we're going to launch there. It took me 2 weeks and 15 grand. That's it. And I remember finishing that and went, okay, we are not going to be a content first business because that is not something that is defensible. Content's a commodity. So from the very early days, we built 1Question as a platform, and a platform that powers up a two-sided marketplace. On the one side, on the demand side, are parents today, and you know, adults down the track, but parents today. And it's an asymmetrical curve back to the supply side, which are subject matter experts, your teachers, your tutors, your scientists, your tour guides, right? People who really know their stuff. And what they do is they create content in the form of a course, and a course is made up of a bunch of classes. And a class in my world is a 1-minute TikTok style video with 5 assessment questions against it. And you know, the student earns screen time or by engaging with those assessment questions and the video. So, you know, we understood that we needed to be a platform to be able to get away from creating our own content. And when realizing just how powerful repetition is, especially when you're including the right type of learning engine on top of it, you know, our mission really became to allow anyone to learn anything from any subject matter expert. And to do that, we need to align everyone's interests. And so in our world, you know, the parents' interests are there because they want their child to actually have their screen time be productive. The child's interest is there as well because, you know what, they need to be doing this stuff. So, you know, Alyssa needed to learn times tables. So she can either do it seamlessly throughout her day with using 1Question, or she can set aside time to do it. We've got high school kids asking us to put rules of the road so that they can get their driver's license test. You know, we got kids coming to us and saying, hey, I've got a geography exam. Can we load up the geography questions? Because I need to do this. So, you know, that interest is aligned. The real question came in, how do we get content at scale? And so what we've done there is decided to deploy a revenue share model where teachers and tutors and tour guides can create these courses based on micro-learning moments, and parents can choose what they want their kids to learn to engage with. And then we can share the revenue between us and the creators. So the aspect of gamification and the aspect of ensuring that every actor's interest is aligned is something that was instilled in me through my time with Tide. It wasn't something that I had learned in any of my other businesses, to be honest with you.
Got it. I think that's a really poignant point. Just to comment on what based on what you said, what I perceived as a double-sided marketplace model, right? Where you have students and you have content creators.
Yeah.
I think that I was gonna bring that up later, so I'm glad that you talked about that. I wanted to ask, keeping that in mind, like as a potential like competitive moat, right? Like what is stopping right, like an app like TikTok from just launching their own parental control system that has a similar function? I think that the easy answer is content, right? Like you said, because content at scale is difficult, and like customizing that content specifically to students, districts, whatever countries based on the curriculum is going to be tough. But I just was curious to know if you had any thoughts on defensibility in the long term.
I agree with you. I think in the short term, the answer is content.
Yeah.
You know, in the medium term, the answer is credibility, and that is the type of content that comes up. So, you know, who's doing it? So for us, it's around teachers, it's around schools, and don't forget, because our main customer is a parent. The parent wants to know that the content is credible. So it's not just the scale of content, but the credibility as well. And that talks into our go-to-market strategy. So if we can actually get introduced to a parent through a school, as you said, it is game over. Because it doesn't matter if another competitor is there. You know, at that stage, it's about credibility first and foremost. What is my child learning? And, you know, I do think that down the track, we will need to address the issue that decentralization has solved so well, and that is, you know, the concept of ensuring that the supply side, the creators, are having the right network effects, so that as one creator comes on board, there's actually a benefit to existing creators, that the economy expands. And I don't know how to solve that yet, but there are a lot of ways to do that through crypto. And luckily today, there's a lot of ways, you know, to marry fiat and crypto together as well. So I think the defensibility, just go back through it, it is the content, it is the credibility, and it is the go-to-market strategy. And then somewhere down the track, it's going to need to also be the stickiness.
I like that a lot. I think in the short term, like, or sorry, in the long term, like, I think that there is a decentralization method there, so that you can ensure that the content creators network is accretive as it grows, right? That
That's
kind
right.
of positive flywheel concept that you see amongst a lot of like Web3 companies. I think that's a wonderful like target in the long term, and I think we're all in agreement, right? If you are the first mover into a specific school district, then it's almost like a winner takes all market.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're aiming for.
Isaac, you know, talked about a lot of really interesting things as we think about, you know, parents and getting them on board. You know, a lot of, you know, my parents watch our podcasts and, you know, share there's a lot of word of mouth, right, in the parental community.
Yeah.
What kind of message would you like to share with our audience, and where can they find 1Question, and how easy is it to get, you know, up and running on their child's smartphone?
Yeah. Well, I guess the primary message is, hey, you know, this is an important project. This is a project that can impact not just my kids, your kids, but it's a project that can impact a lot of kids. And the reality is, screens are not going away, and screen time is not going away. And the algorithm of big tech is only going to get better. And so, you know, the real concern here is that unless we figure out ways to make our kids' screen time productive, and we may be one part of a solution, but collectively as a society, we need to figure out a way to ensure that we don't lose our kids to the algorithms that are only going to improve and screens that are only going to ever be more present. So, you know, try 1Question. And tell me when we can make it better. In fact, you know, we've got an email address that says make it better at 1question.app, right? Because we are still very much in our beta stage, and we want as much feedback as possible, because that's the only way we're going to make it better, and we're going to help solve this collective challenge. In terms of where you can get 1Question, it's on the App Store. Just type in the number 1, and then question, and then parent, because there's 2 apps. There's a parent app and child app. And we've done our best so far to make the installation a 5-minute gig. There's some limitations, because we're the first app in the world to be able to use the iOS 15 screen time API, and that does require that there are things like family sharing setups, and your child's logged in with their own Apple ID account. But once you've got that done, it's just a breeze, and it really is a set and forget.